Welcome to the Crane Bag Podcast. I am Jay Leeming. Not long ago, I had the honor of speaking with Janardan Ghosh, a storyteller, theater maker, and teacher from India. We discussed storytelling, spirituality, and healing. I found our conversation very inspiring, and I would like to share that conversation with you. Thank you for joining me. Janardan, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this space that you have wonderfully created for such a long time with such wonderful visitors. I had been following some of your podcasts, and I can understand what a potent place or space this is.
Thank you. Well, I am grateful to have you here. And I believe we're going to begin with a story, right? So if you could please tell us a story, that would be wonderful.
Dust I am. I am dust. I am the dust, the first storyteller of this earth. I float unseen, settling silently upon your palms, between your toes. I'm soil, stardust, ancient carbon, and forgotten memories. You breathe me unknowingly. With every breath, you listen. I carry stories the earth wishes to tell. Yeah, once I was a mountain. Once I was a forest. Yeah, I was a river too, and oceans and clouds. But I have watched you break mountains, burn forests, poison rivers. And now I'm only dust, bearing witness to your deeds. Samudra vasane devi, parvatastana mandite, Vishnu patni namastubhyam, padasparsham shamaswame. Once there was a king named Prithu, and he was a benevolent king, and it was a good time. People were happy, they loved, they laughed, they enjoyed. But time changed. People started suffering. Prithu could hear the moans and the groans of these people. They were starving. They were crying. They ran to the palace and told Prithvi, Prithu, this earth withheld her bounty. We are hungry. Fields are barren, granaries empty. O king, help us, help us. King Prithu was shattered to hear this. In his kingdom, such suffering. Determined to save his people, he took up his bow and a quiver of arrows, and in anger and desperation, he looked for Mother Earth. He looked here, he looked there, and there. There he saw her, and then started chasing her on his horse. Mother Earth, fearing the king's wrath, took the form of a cow and fled. Prithu shouted, "Stop! Stop!" Eyes blazing. But the cow-shaped earth ran faster and faster over the plains, beyond the mountains, even into the sky. Prithu shouted, "Give us nourishment, or I will slay you for your dereliction." How could the earth explain her heart? She was suffering herself. She was bleeding and writhing in pain. People exploited her. They took everything from her, and she was silent. And finally, she was cornered, trembling. Mother Earth turned around. And she found her voice. This is magical. When you turn around and look at fear into its eyes, you get back your voice. Mother Earth got her voice. And then she appealed to the king's wisdom and compassion, asking him, why? Why would you, king, slay your own mother? What have I done? Your people are killing me day in and day out. I am empty. She was crying. And then she said, you are trying to strike me again? O king, the protector of the innocent? How have I wronged you? Why do you seek to kill me, a mother who nourishes all you and your people? Mamavapatyajaram navam yatra vishwam pratishtitam atmanam cha prajasah chemaha katham ambhasi dhasyasi. My dear king, I'm just like a strong boat, and all the paraphernalia of the world stands upon me. If you break me to pieces, how will you protect yourself and your people from drowning? Hearing this, King Prithu's anger ebbed. He realized destroying Earth would doom everyone. He listened as Mother Earth promised to yield her milk, grains, fruits, herbs, if they nurtured rather than breathed. Prithu pledged to care for her, to be her guardian instead of her destroyer. In that moment, a sacred contract was formed. Earth would feed her children, and in return, we humans must protect their mother. Jay, you are trying to hide. You were there too, signing that contract with Mother Earth. Have you forgotten? This earth is still known as Prithvi, the mother of Prithu, in honor of the king who protected his mother. You have forgotten. We are utterly dependent on her. To harm her is to harm ourselves. Okay, just pause. Just pause and close your eyes. Just for a moment, try to connect. Breathe in deeply and feel the warm earth beneath you, solid. Feel how she supports your weight completely. Exhale. Exhale the tension out of your body. Sink a little deeper. Your legs and arms are growing heavy, safe in the lap of Mother Earth. Become aware how she holds you. Now imagine Imagine roots growing from your legs into the soil, gentle roots seeking nourishment. Inhale, draw the strength from the earth. Exhale, release your fears. Feel the beats of the earth, Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Janardan. That was marvelous. And I feel this amazing silence you have created around us. And I almost don't want to break it. I want to stay in that silence because the story lives there. And I can feel the dust between my fingers. And I can pick up that bow again and set it down once more. Thank you. Where did you first find that story?
Well, this is a story which is in one of the Puranas named Bhagavatam. Bhagavata Purana is basically the story of Lord Krishna, who I think you have encountered in Mahabharata. So it's the life and the works of Lord Krishna, which has been narrated in Bhagavatam. And in this Purana, you have loads of other things like geographical knowledge, astronomical knowledge, Ayurveda, health, and of course, philosophy. So it's a very kind of a treatise which is like a compendium of all that human beings need. And according to Vaishnava Shastra, this is one of the most important scripture for the Vaishnavites, the Vaishnava devotees.
Thank you. And is it correct to say that the Puranas are a distillation of the wisdom of the Vedas and the Upanishads into a more accessible form?
Correct. What actually the Vedas and the Upanishads are very complex literature because they are written in poems, in the form of poems. So even a single line would contain a huge amount of thought and philosophy. Now, it was very difficult for the common people to comprehend what is there in the Vedas. So, from the Vedas, we try to distill the different systems of knowledge which you find in the Upanishads. But Upanishads were equally very complex and impenetrable for most of the common people. Therefore, the scholars, the rishis, they thought that it would be easier to transfer that same knowledge through stories. So stories became the vehicle to carry those knowledge and those profound understanding of life and the ways of the world. Through stories, it reached the people, the common people. So Puranas are containing that knowledge, but in forms of stories.
And do you see most stories as having spiritual content? Or is it more in the way that you perform and express a story that a spiritual content comes out?
Of course, you are very right. It is the way that you look at it, but definitely there are stories which can be just, they can be kind of lessons for the people, simple
Mhm.
lessons, how to take care of this nature, how to live a life, how to be righteous, and all these kind of values and morals can be learned from there. But definitely, if you go deeper into it, you get that spiritual wisdom from these stories. So the stories are almost open for you to dive in and search for what you are looking for. So this is like the stories are very vulnerable, and so they allow the way you would like to explore it. And most of the Indian stories, I feel, have this spiritual possibility, but it depends how you approach it, how you treat it.
When I first heard you tell a story, it was online at a gathering where we were both telling stories, if I remember correctly. And we all know how the internet is. It makes certain things possible, it makes other things less possible. It's a reduced way of relating to each other, really. But despite that, in that environment, you succeeded in being both playful and reverent. And just as in the story today, you succeeded in bringing a deeper mystery and a sense of the divine into that space that we were all sharing. So I'd like to ask you, what do you feel is the connection between storytelling and spirituality?
That's a very, very a difficult question because what I feel that my spiritual connection is more intuitive than a very structured approach or a conscious approach, I would say. And so for me, storytelling is not a tool or a technique or a form of art. It is rather, when I tell stories, I try to become the story. I like my entire self to carry that story along with me to the audience. So this merging of the story and the storyteller is something that takes me closer to a spiritual consciousness or a kind of spiritual awareness. This is because I then lose my identity as Janardan, and the empirical I, which keeps bothering all of us in this material world, where we are continuously getting attached with objects and egos, and we have our own pride, vanity, things that kind of create a shell around us. But when I merge with the story, this shell is broken, and I feel that I'm more like that story which doesn't belong to anything, and the story which doesn't want to get attached with anything. The story is like available to all, and similarly I also become available to all because I'm with it, I'm within it. So I think my connection with spirituality in story is like this, very intuitive. I don't kind of structure my stories in such a way that at this moment I would have a spiritual realization or the story takes a leap to the spiritual realm. It's nothing like that. It is a very, very organic way of evolving along with the story, which allows my little body, this small little body, to expand and move across the different layers of my intuitive body, my mental body, my intellectual body, and then move into that blissful consciousness which connects me to the entire world, not only to the listeners who are there at that moment. So I don't know whether I have been able to explain to you what it is like, but that's it.
Thank you. No, that was marvelous. That was well said. And as someone from America, from New York, I listen to your words and I hear the way you tell stories. And I I consider how, from the outside, many folks in the West see India as a defender and a carrier of a certain spiritual life. And I think of the Gita as well, where Krishna says that you should do every action in this world as an offering to the divine, to Krishna. And so I'm wondering, is this sense of the divine and of the sacred in storytelling, is it something you sought out? Were there events in your life which opened you to those possibilities? Or is it a cultural trait? And are there many storytellers in India who work this way? Is that clear what I'm asking?
Yeah. I got the question. Yes. Yeah. The thing is that if you look at our folk artists, like, Baul, or the performers like Kathavachaka, or those who are Dasakatiyas, then Pandavani performers, all these folk artists, they have this practice of doing it as more of a spiritual practice. I won't kind of word the use, it's quote unquote spiritual, is something like doing it for the Lord that they believe in, doing it for the absolute power that they have faith in. So it is not an artistic exercise, but it is more a kind of worshiping the Lord that they believe in. That is why these folk artists, they have this ritual of first asking permission from the Lord that should I tell this story? Do you think that this is the right time to share this story with them? And thereafter, they go, they plead, they take his permission, they want his presence. And in that presence, they kind of share that story, whatever they would like to tell. And these stories are definitely having lots of other layers of connecting to this divine experience that we are discussing now, to the divine, to connect with the divine. They have such kind of moments in the story itself, and they would often refer that he is there, he is looking, he is kind of, also looking at me, as you people are also, the audience is looking at me. One of my great audiences, that is very interesting. Like, you must have heard of Chaitanya. When Chaitanya is performing, though he is not telling a story, he's doing a theatrical performance. And during his theatrical performance, on the throne is seated Lord Krishna. Krishna's idol is there. So Lord Krishna is seated there, not only as a witness, but also as a patra, means as a hero, at a pradhan patra. So as a hero, he is present there, he is participating in that performance, and also he's the witness of that performance. This witness of the Almighty in our day-to-day activities also is there in our storytelling, like when you tell stories. But at present, if you see these contemporary storytellers, and especially those who are influenced by the Western storytelling methods, and they have their own practices which are equally wonderful, very enigmatic, interesting. But this kind of ritualistic presence is not there. The ritualistic process is not being followed by them. They have their own way of telling these stories. But for me too, I don't know, because I had been also growing up in cities, and my education had been in a missionary school, English medium school. My entire education was very, Western influence was there, very strong. My theater was also had initially Western influence, but later on, I drifted. I would call it like unconsciously, or not so, purposefully. I drifted to this field of our very indigenous way of storytelling, where I found this profound experience of being with the divine while you are telling the story. How you do it can differ. I'm using technology. I'm using video mediums when I'm telling stories. At times I'm using certain recorded machineries. I'm using the laptop when I'm doing online performances. But whatever the context or the medium might be, this connection with the greater force, the connection where you can also have a spiritual experience, not only give the experience to the audience, but you also have that experience as a performer. That kind of an approach I am trying to work on. I I would not say that I've completely kind of have gone to that state that while I'm telling the story, I'm also going into a transcendental state, which I can give you examples of our storytellers like Ramakrishna, who goes into a state of samadhi while performing, telling stories, singing. So, this is what my main objective is through storytelling to reach that state of moksha, which I often use as a tagline for my storytelling exercise. That
Mm, thank you. And moksha is basically translates as enlightenment, correct?
correct, correct.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It is, and the enlightenment is, what is that enlightenment? The enlightenment is the knowledge of what you are, what am I? You get an answer to that question, and at the same time, the essential, absolute knowledge is there within you. That is what is enlightenment for me.
Mm. I know you came to storytelling from theater.
Correct.
So, did you have a spiritual practice before you started telling stories that was then awoken and then became connected to your work as a storyteller?
I would say that when I started theater, I was more interested in Brechtian forms of theater because my teacher was Anjan Datta, who had uh, who had kind of affiliation with communist ideas, and Bertolt Brecht was uh, one of our ideators of the form of theater. And so there, I think this kind of spirituality and the transcendental world and all this was totally not thought of or was not within that purview. The premise did not allow that kind of thought. So it was very naturalistic, and people would try in Brechtian theater, this idea of getting alienated from the character that you play is something that is totally different from what I practice now, is to become that character, to become that story. But in Brechtian theater, it was more of that you need to tell them that it is theater, it is not reality. And the character that I'm playing is not me. I'm an actor who is playing that character. So that you give that scope of thought to the audience to deliberate on the different things that is happening on the stage so that they can discern between the good and the bad. But gradually, when I moved, deeper into theater practices, and I came to know Waldemar Stanisky, who is a Polish theater practitioner and who was contemporary of Grotowski, and he both of them together and along with other people, they started their kind of theater, wherein we find Grotowski and both the person whom I met, Stanisky, both looked for that experience in the body, that kind of experience which a spiritual seeker seeks for. So they were looking for the energy sources in the body, that for a performer, from where is this energy emerging? And then how it flows through the body into the space that is occupied by the audience and the performer. So these kind of interesting thoughts, which came from Western practitioner in the beginning. And then I came to know that what am I missing? And then I came to know, because initially I thought that the traditional folk Indian theater was very frivolous, very loud, and they looked for popularity. So I was not much interested. But then I found that okay, so this is all peripheral. It is all at the top, at the surface, and deeper inside, these practices had these essential qualities of upliftment of the I, of the person that I am. So I think from contemporary theater, which was very much influenced by the then Marxist, theater practitioners like Stanislavski and Brecht. I moved into people like Artaud and Grotowski, who were Western practitioners, and then I drifted into indigenous practice methods, Natya Shastra, Rasa. When I came to Rasa, it was an eye opener for me. When I was doing Brecht, I did not have any idea of rasa or bhavas, but it was. And therefore, then I came into this individual journey of story performances that I called Kathabhinaya, wherein I essentially kind of dwell with the Indian art practice.
Wonderful. And what is it that caused you to move away from theater to solo storytelling? What's changed in your life?
Yeah, there were some practical reasons. One of the practical reason was to get my people, like my actors, and because of cinema and because of television, my actors would often go for these kind of art forms because they would pay them heavily, which theater wouldn't be able to pay. So the availability of my actors was one of the challenges that I faced in theater. Though I had some good actors in my group who worked with me, and I had also an opportunity to work with good directors, but they were all fragmented. Like the purpose was more of doing performances, like doing plays, more number of shows, going to more places, more popularity. But somewhere this inner search was missing. What happened that it was, I think, in the year 2001 or 2, I went to Rishikesh. I hope you've heard of Rishikesh. Rishikesh is a small town on the Himalayas, in the
Yes.
northern part of our country. And you would find most of the foreigners would at least go once to Rishikesh because it is considered to be one of the most spiritually potent area in the country. And we have lots of ashrams and great teachers, great sadhus. They all live in Rishikesh. So I went to Rishikesh. I went for 3 months intensive ashrama experience where uh, where I got taught and trained by sadhus, by spiritual leaders. And especially if you've heard of Shivananda Ashram, I was actually in Shivananda Ashram and I had the fortune to meet Swami Chidananda Saraswati, who is considered to be one of the greatest soul of this Indian subcontinent. And I could hear, I had the luck to hear his telling of stories, his singing, his preaching. So I still remember. And that was a turning point in my life because there we had classes on Gita, on Narada Bhakti Sutra. I had yoga classes. I had classes on other Isha Upanishad. and more such kind of scriptures I read. The daily routine was very interesting. Early in the morning at 4 o'clock, we'd wake up, go for meditation. It was a very, very, I would say, out of the world experience when I went to Rishikesh. And that is a turning point in my life. And my entire journey took a turn at that point. Uh, Even in my professional life, my understanding of my relationship with my family, my art practice, everything went through a great change, a transformation. So that is the time when I wanted some solo trip. I wanted to be alone. And there itself, I came across this wonderful book by David Haberman named uh, Salvation Through Acting. Means how through acting you can actually achieve salvation. And that was a key book which also ushered me to pursue my PhD when I started researching on this, as I mentioned, the great spiritual leader Sri Ramakrishna, who is equally a great storyteller. There is a voluminous book called Kathamrita, which is full of his stories, his tales, some very small, I would call them storylets, and some bigger ones. So I got to know Thakur from a deeper Sri Ramakrishna in a very deep way through my research, because my research was also the kind of performance that is used as a tool in spiritual practices, how performance plays an important role. And I think that was the moment I thought that I should shift into a practice which is deeper and which is solo, and where I do not have conflicts with my other partners, so no partners required. So all these kind of factors pushed me towards storytelling. And once I entered this world, it was another magical world, another dream world.
Thank you. That was marvelous. Are you able to share with us a single image, a picture from your time in Rishikesh, like a snapshot?
That's interesting. Okay, I remember, there was this once we were talking about spiritual practice, and then they said that if you do not lose your ego, you can't kind of achieve that truth that you are seeking. You will be far off from the truth until and unless you shatter your ego. And so we asked the master that what is the best way? He said that you prove that you are not worthy. You don't have any value. Can you do that in front of strangers and people like that? So I thought, what should I do? And then in the morning, I went to the other side of the river, the Mother Ganges. I went across the bridge that is a very famous bridge called Ram Jhula and Lakshman Jhula. So there are two hanging bridges. So I crossed that bridge and then I went into that lane. And then I saw this, a foreigner who was buying some food from the shop. And then I thought, what should I? I said that, let me go and beg from her. Will I be able to beg? So I thought that no, what would she think? And something was stopping me. But then I kind of, was determined, and I thought that no, I'm nobody. I don't have money. I don't have anything. And so if just this idea of a person who has money, who is educated, and who can speak languages which are accepted by the elite, let me kind of go and break this. And this was also very theatrical. I couldn't kind of remove theater from my life. So
Mm.
I went to this young lady and I said that I'm hungry, would you buy me some food? And she suspiciously looked at me, but fortunately, I had grown my beard and I was wearing a kurta which I couldn't clean for 1 or 2 days, so it was also dirty. And then I don't know, she thought that, well, he deserves some help. And initially, she was suspicious and she didn't want to. Said, "Why you don't have money?" And all these questions she asked. I said, "No, I wouldn't have done this if you would have, if I had money." And then she she was having a fruit juice, and then she had a singara. I don't know whether you know that. It's a kind of uh, triangular, very popular food here in India called singara. Samosa also in northern
Mm.
India, it is samosa. So she bought this samosa and this juice. I sat there and I was having, but deep inside, another ego kind of grow. Oh, I could do it. Look, I could pretend that I'm a beggar. And so I went back and I felt that it didn't work. I
Mm.
tried to do this and I succeeded, but my ego was that I could do it and I could prove that I am a beggar and I am somebody who is penniless. Then my master said that it is not a pretension, it is a deep understanding. It is not how you are posing yourself to the other. It is your understanding. It is how you look at yourself. So, ego is not how you interact with a person, but ego is how you interact with yourself. What kind of notions you have about yourself? How do you look at yourself? So, I think I still remember that image of me walking down the lane, meeting that pretty lady, and and this entire thing that I shared with you. I do remember it bright and
Wow.
clear.
Thank you. Thank you. I know in my own experience as a performer that ego can be a slippery and a potentially dangerous thing because, on the one hand, you need enough ego to stand up and actually tell a story, to realize that you, maybe more than others in the room, are more capable of doing that. But at the same time, you can become confused and start to feel that the admiration and the excitement going towards the story is all due to you. So, how do you deal with this? Do you have rituals of approach, certain practices which help you in dealing with this?
No, as you had mentioned earlier also that Krishna said that in Gita that you offer everything you do to me and do not look for results, do not look for appreciation. It will happen. It is not that it won't have result. Every karma has a result, but your expectation with the result is what is problematic. So what I feel that if you have that ritual of offering that story to Krishna or to someone you believe, Jesus, or anybody you believe, or to that absolute truth that you imagine is around us, that offering instead of telling, instead of performing, the concept of offering a story would be a better ritual for me. What I also do that I always try to have a deep kind of I try to reach to a deep state where I would pray and worship and I would tell that okay, this is just an offering, and thereafter, I start sharing that story. And I say, it is your story, and you are making me tell that story. I'm just a tool. You are the puppeteer. I'm the puppet. So that kind of a thought plays in my mind. And I think that helps me, where I'm not even attached with the story, I'm not even attached with the space, I'm not even attached with the people who are looking at me. For that moment, I think I do not exist. And it is just an offering that the Lord has allowed me to. So, this kind of a ritual is what I follow. I do
Mm.
that. I do that.
And how do you choose which stories to tell?
Yeah, this is what I do is, I take a long time to prepare stories. So it's not like a theater, maybe because I was into theater. So this long time preparation is something that I do. I do not, suppose I get a good story, I do not immediately, start working on it. I look at, I feel the story chooses me. That is I prefer that the story would choose me, not me. So if the story is revealing itself to me with its nuances and with, the different other kinds of resonances that are created while I'm exploring the story, that tells me that, okay, this is something that you can work on at this time. I do not, and then I continue with that story for maybe months. Even if the audience is differing, the places are differing, and needs are different, but I usually commit to my story and I tell them that this is what I have at present with me, and I can do this only. I do not give them choices. Rather, I do what I am with. I don't
Mhm.
betray my stories. It's like because that story has given me something, so I keep the story with myself for some time. And because at present I'm working on this particular story of Prithu, which I did in Mysore, I did it Bangalore. There are more parts to it. Only the first part I've done. Even the one that you've heard is a part of Bhagavata, the Bhagavatam. It is also from the Purana. So I am dwelling with the story. I am with the story for a pretty long. I love to stay with the story for a long and let it evolve, let it grow. And I consider story itself, and I think you also will agree, that story is also like a living being. It grows, it evolves, and it transforms, it changes, it challenges, it fights with you. So, in my training, also, I tell that you have to sleep with your story. You need to
Mm.
sleep with your story. You have to be very intimate with your story. It's a very visceral, intimate experience that I have with my stories, and I love to carry it for longer time.
Thank you. Yeah, I was lucky enough to recently spend a week on the Greek island of Ithaki, as I told you earlier, of course, the legendary home of Odysseus himself. And it was really rainy when I was there, but beautiful. And one day I'm walking in the rain up this mountainous hill towards the ruins of this old Mycenaean palace, and the thought came to me, maybe I'm married to the Odyssey. Of course, I'm
Yeah,
married
yeah.
to my wife. But what I mean is, a marriage, it's a long term commitment which you make and you stick with it, even though every day is not paradise. And you do that because the long term rewards are worth it and it can't be found in any other way. So I feel that way about the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's a long term commitment to that story. And I love that story, but it's not always easy. It's rigorous work. And there's times where I'm like, wow, how do I tell this scene and how does this go? But the rewards of long term relationship, long term connection with the story are great. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that this is what I also believe in. This long-term relationship with fights and moments of hatred and disgust and all that are there, but still you stay together. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So it sounds like you avoid the sort of storytelling jukebox situation where, let's say, you're dwelling in the story of Prithu, and then a college or a university calls you and says, "Oh, we want a piece of the Ramayana in 2 days. Can you do it?" And you would actually refuse that invitation, that gig, and just tell them, "I'm actually not dwelling in that story right now." Is that correct?
Correct. I usually do that because when I did Ramayana also, portion of Ramayana, but that was last year. That was my dwelling, my stint with Ramayana. That was almost for a year or more than 2 years. I stayed with that Ramayana. I went to Bangkok, did that same. I went to
Mm.
Philippines, I did the same, and things were different. Like in Bangkok, it was something to do with younger people, and they wanted something to which they would kind of comprehend, they would like. I said, this is what I'll do, and I'll make it what that is what I try to do, that how can I suit that same story to this audience? How
Mm.
can I kind of give a new life to that same story to a different audience? In Philippines, it was totally about nature. The entire project was on nature. And I tried to find what is there in this story which would appeal the people who are actually doing things for Mother Earth, nature, and all that. So I kind of kept that same story. So it was almost for 2.5 years I stayed with Ramayana. The next I came to this story from Bhagavatam, which I am trying to work now.
Yeah, marvelous. That's very fascinating. Thank you. And I guess I won't keep you here all day, but I'm wondering what is the role of storytelling in healing?
Oh, yes. And I call it Katha Aushadhi. Like Katha is story, where in Sanskrit, any narration is known as Katha, any narration. So Katha. Aushadhi means medicine. So words as medicine. What I have found in contemporary, science also, it is talking about how our mind is wired for stories, like how we can comprehend things through a format which is storied. Any knowledge which comes in a format of storied, which I said that from Vedas to Puranas, is this idea of the mind which actually appeals or is able to comprehend things which are in a form of a story. That's why we have stories in newspapers, we have this. So the neural synapses, the neural, kind of mapping that we have in our mind, it resonates with stories. Apart from that, we, if you look at in our shastras, in our scriptures, continuously in every scripture, they will tell you that if you read this particular text, you will get this benefit. They are all kind of, there is a result that is mentioned in the text itself, where it says that if you read Ramayana, this will happen. If you read this Hanuman Chalisa, then you will be fearless, you will not have disease, you will have this, that. So it is mentioned there. So in the text itself, in our ancient text itself, you find this element of healing in the story mentioned categorically. It is mentioned loud and clear that this affects. So there might have been some result, which is definitely, evidentially, we don't have such kind of work. But while you listen to the story, your mental wellness is taken care of. In Natya Shastra, there is a note by Abhinavagupta where he says the finality of experience of an audience is samvid and vishranti. You will get equanimity and composure, calmness. Shanta is, that is what bhava you will have. You will be at peace. When you see a performance, you will be at peace at the end. Even if it is a violent story, even if it is a story which talks about death, suffering, pain, disgust, at the end, you will have this experience of calmness, equanimity, and composure. So I feel stories can heal. And definitely with contemporary research in narrative therapy or bibliotherapy, great scholars are working on looking at the aspect of healing. In Australia, they are having this center of narrative therapy training program. So they are looking into how stories can heal. And I feel this rasa experience, which is generated through the listening of a story or performing of a story or reading of a story, is something that actually takes you to that state of good health, mental as well as physical. Physical health cannot be claimed too much, but definitely mental health is something very important. Hmm.
Thank you. And of course, the two are connected. So that's,
And yeah, it is
yeah,
that we are psychosomatic being. We are, these are connected, like the
yeah.
body and the mind, they are connected. So if the mind is healthy, the body is also healthy.
We're the first line of defense, Janardan. I mean, there's hospitals, there's doctors, there's herbal medicine, and then there's the storytellers, and we solve the problem like way before it starts. We shall see.
No,
I
it is. Like,
yeah.
in shamans, like here we have ojas, they're like shamans. And when they treat, they do more of these, performances of stories. They narrate different stories, how this person was healed. And they have this structured orality. And I feel this structured orality has some kind of science which works on our neural matrix, and it helps, but this has to be researched, and that is what I'm trying to also work on. And I'm trying to associate with one of our neurological sciences institute of neurological science here in Bangalore, and see if I can prove quantitatively and empirically also what I'm trying to claim.
Yes, yes. In New York, not long ago, at a museum, I saw an object called a Yoruba divination tray from Africa. It was a wooden tray with a god carved into the face of a god carved into it. And my understanding, such as it is from just reading the write up in the museum, was that there would be sand in the tray and a diviner would sing a song and drum on the tray. And the sand would arrange itself into a pattern, naturally enough. And you would look at that pattern, and then you would know which story to tell to heal a patient. And I thought that was remarkable and a real testament to the power of story to heal.
I'm really struck by this. Do you have some kind of written material on this? Like, do you have apart from what you've seen? If you can just send me a couple of photographs and maybe send some literature on this particular object that you've seen. I, I
Yes,
would do. I'd love.
I will do that. I will need to be back home in Ithaca, which won't be for a few weeks yet, but I will do that. And I do know the museum where I saw it, so I can look there as well.
Great.
Janardan, thank you so much. Before we close, however, I just want to ask you about the chants you shared with us in your story. Are those from a particular tradition, or are they poems of a certain kind?
They are like Sanskrit, chants from the original Sanskrit version. That's why I translated those later, like
Mm.
where I say Mama Vipajayat Vipattaya Jaram. It is where, my dear king, I spoke about that strong boat. So this is the Sanskrit sloka which I chanted, and thereafter I gave the English translation. But the beginning, the shloka that is in the beginning, is more like evoking Mother Earth. So that was the ritual prayer which I had before I started the story of Prithu. So
Mm.
I chanted that ritual prayer, offering my prayer to Mother Earth and begging her to kind of allow me to step on her while I tell the story. So that is what I did in the first sloka, the first chanting. But the later chanting was a portion from the Sanskrit original Bhagavatam. So it's from
Mm.
there.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Janardan. And I'm sitting here in Greece, as you and I talked before we pressed record. I'm sitting here in Crete, on the western edge of Crete, and I'm feeling a little poor. I'm feeling.
No.
I mean, when you bring these traditions from India that have been intact and have been maintained for thousands of years,
Correct.
I look at the Western tradition, and I mean, we all know there were bards and there were these lineages, but those were not passed down. Those have not remained intact to the present day. No one alive today in Greece can share knowledge that was passed down through thousands of years from the same bards who recited, who told the stories of Homer, for example.
Correct.
But in India, we have such traditions as the Katha dance tradition and storytelling traditions, musical traditions, which have remained intact for such a long time. So in hearing you speak out of these traditions, I feel as I have before. I feel humbled and inspired by these traditions which you are a part of and which you access through your storytelling.
No, so am I. I'm also humbled. What's the problem with, as you mentioned, that with the Western practitioners, most of it is lost. I think the Greek practitioners were on similar lines. They were very deep, very profound, and but that lineage is not there. There are no contemporary practitioners who would carry it because it didn't stay with families. This is
Mhm.
what the reason is. Because in India, it is families which actually carry those cultures. If you look at traditional dance, if you look at traditional storytelling, it was the son, the son's son, the grandson. And so it was like the practice itself had to be transferred to the younger ones, even if they were not practicing, but they would get some elements of it. So it stayed back. And it is still now in some of the practitioners in South, when I go there and when I try to explore, it's because they learned from their father or their mother, and the father learned it from their grandfather. So it's like a family. But in the West, it was more of individuals, great performers. Right? But then they had, students who were also not belonging to the family. Some other learner, great practitioner would come and then learn it from them. So I think somewhere the lineage broke like that of disciples instead of family.
Yeah. And certainly also the guru student relationship is also
Yes, yes.
a factor.
And guru-student relationship is more family-like. Because the activities that you see is more like a family there. The guru is cooking for them. The guru mother, the guru ma is cooking for them. They
Mm.
are cleaning clothes of the guru. They are bringing wood. The disciple is getting wood for them. The entire concept of Gurukula is like building up another family. They just change parents. At times, gurus become, greater than parents.
Wow. That's
Mm.
inspiring. That's
Yeah,
inspiring.
it is. You can start a Gurukula there in America, in New York, and your lovely stories of Mahabharata and
Mm.
Odyssey would definitely, even Odyssey, I would like to know more. That's why I keep listening to your stories to see the elements and this Greek literature,
Mm.
both the Puranas and these epics, Greek epics, they have lot of commonalities. The
Mm.
way we look at uh, Achilles and Arjuna and look at the other characters, the different other characters, you will see there are lots of similarities. And there have been studies of, how the Greek epic and the Mahabharata had some common features.
Yes, yes. Achilles spends some time living as a dancing girl, just as Arjuna does.
Correct.
There are things there we have to dig.
Yeah, there are. There are. So I think you are doing a wonderful work by bringing in these two epics. Like, you are doing it separately, but then somewhere it is entering you, both these things, Odyssey and Mahabharata, they are together there. And so I think it would create a different magic. And it creates a different magic.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today, Janardan. It's been a great pleasure. And if listeners want to catch up to you and find out about what you were doing, the best place is kathabanaya.com, correct?
Yes, I'm still working on that website, but that is the best place to connect and get some idea of the work, the little work that I am doing. And there my email ID is also mentioned, so they can contact me directly also to know more about the way I look at storytelling.
Yes. All right. And I'll just spell that for our listeners. That's kathabinaya.com, KATHABHINAYA.com, kathabinaya.com. Well, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you, Janardan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I hope to see you in person soon. Take care.
Of course, I'm also looking forward.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. And I would also like to thank my Patreon supporters. It is because of their generosity that these podcasts are freely available to everyone who wishes to listen to them. You can join them by supporting my work at patreon.com/storyjl. That's patreon.com/storyjl. That feeds the horse of this podcast, that keeps the magic flowing. Thanks again for listening, and take care.